Hello, welcome to Cheer Chat, you guys. Happy Monday. This is the first time I'm going live on a Wednesday, but I'm super excited because we have a special guest joining us, a former NFL cheerleader, Christal, who you probably all know and seen. Absolutely stunning, talented model and dancer and so forth and so on. And we just decided to partner together. She'll join in a second and talk about Mean Girls in pro cheer and dance on these teams. We're like halfway through the season, right? And we know that squad dynamics are settling in. And it's just an unfortunate truth. You guys have been writing in so much and sharing your experiences. And we're just going to talk a little bit about this very, very interesting dynamic that we have in pro cheer. I think it's, existent in other places, but, this is still a workplace. And the fact that Mean Girls seems to be a main issue across a lot of teams, across a lot of leagues, is just super intriguing. And so we're going to get into it. Crystal's joining, so I'm going to let her in. In YouTube land, I will post the actual video that has both of us. Sorry, you're just going to have to deal for right now. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. Hey.
Hi. Oh my God,
How
I'm
are
so
you?
nervous. It's crazy. Oh my God.
That's what this is for. Do you not have a glass of something?
No, I don't. I actually I had I had a happy hour with some coworkers because it is my last week with them and the holidays. So some people are going to be here, some people will not. So we took advantage. But I think that even made it more nervous than I am. So.
Well, let me catch up with you. Don't worry at all. So one of my birthday presents that nobody can see until I pour something in here says Cheer Chat with Makiba. Thank you, Dejana. So I'm about to fill it up. She gave me a cute little, I didn't want to start without you, but since you had an early start.
Yeah, I had an early start. Catch up, Makiba. We got to catch up.
We got to catch up. So thank you everybody for joining again. Anti-Mean Girls Guide. I love this title, Christal. Thank you so much for coming up with it. It's like perfect because we just wanted to give people some words of wisdom, just a little bit of just support around this topic and issue because it's something that too many of us face. You're not alone, I'm not alone, and everybody's written in alone. But shout out to everybody who wrote into the story and gave examples of what they were dealing with. You have a dog, I have a dog. Actually, Giggles isn't in here.
Did you hear her cough? She's so rude. She does that all the time. When she hears a conversation is happening, she wants to tap in. So I'm so sorry. It's just her trying to be a part of the conversation.
Giggles all day long. Do not worry. So Christal, while I sip, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into our topic.
Yeah. So everybody, my name is Christal. I started my pro cheer journey, I want to say maybe 2012. I think, 2012, 2013. I was a 2-year semi-pro cheerleader for a major arena soccer league. And then I took a break. I then did the pro cheer playbook with Silent Prep, which helped me prepare for my pro cheer journey with the NFL. That was Redskins, then Versus Ladies. Did not cheer on Commanders, but that's now the new name for it. Yeah. Outside of that, I've done a lot of modeling. I've done runway. I've done DC Swim Week, New Year Fashion Week. I've done print. So yeah, I'm a little well-rounded little muffin over here. So
okay, exactly. Let's just get it all out there. All the praise and glory, just because it's again, just a well-rounded perspective. Because obviously, it's a model too. You're in an entirely different industry where you probably have similar dynamics. Okay, now it's a competition of coughing. My dog has come in, and now she's coughing.
Yeah, because she hears. Come on, come here. Yeah, it's definitely. It's definitely. I will say this. The Mean Girls, they're everywhere. Whether it's in pro cheer, whether it's in modeling, whether it's in the workplace, that whole entire air of just I think it says superiority complex, something along those lines. But it's it's everywhere. So hopefully we can go ahead and be able to help people that have experience, not just in pro cheer, but in the real world, how to best handle these things.
Handle it, right? Because I know sometimes I don't want to think that it exists. Like when you think of an office job, for example, that you really have to deal with mean girl dynamics. So maybe I was just a little too tough in thinking that why are we dealing with this in pro cheer? This happens nowhere else in any job that you take. But I guess that's just not exactly true. They are everywhere.
That's everywhere.
And yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to try to keep up with comments, Crystal. So just mind or bear with me. A cute glass, thank you. Okay, I'm just going back so that we can keep in track. Because this is a very interactive space, you guys. Somebody says Crystal is a star. Yes, she is.
Aw.
Okay, so now we're all caught up. We're all going to be just, bonding together over this topic. You guys definitely have written in about examples that you would probably want some guidance on. And so, Crystal, I thought we could just kind of start there talking about the examples because the DMs were definitely blowing up and people were, I
Mine
think,
was girl. Mine was blowing
yeah,
up
let's
too.
get into it. But I think one thing that we could probably distinguish is just that there's some examples that might not rise to the level of Mean Girl in some people's minds because it's just kind of like social dynamics of like who you vibe with, who you don't, and maybe people are taking things too personally and all of that. But these are some concrete examples that I thought were pretty good to kind of summarize the types of stuff that you'll see. And just for FYI for everybody, Brittany and I did an episode called Mean Girl on this topic where we tried to get into all of the nits and gritties about this whole thing. But I really appreciated somebody writing in and saying like we need a 2.0 because that was 3 years ago. And I think with social media and different dynamics that have shifted in our space, it's showing up a little differently now. You know what I mean? And so here's some examples. You ready to kind of go through them and kind of talk to each one?
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
Okay,
go.
okay, okay. All right, let's just get the main one out the way because people wrote in a lot about cliques. Forming on these teams, you have like 30 to 40 or even less maybe for NBA, right? Where, these little groups and cliques form and they just inevitably have a way of like excluding other people. Like, for example, if they all get together and do something fun and it's like everybody but like a few of them that are invited, or they only find out about it once somebody's posting about it on social media. How would you kind of define a mean girl, and like how does this particular example, like what plays into that?
So that's so funny that someone brought that up. Because we had that on my NFL team where, and this is where I guess it gets kind of dicey because
Mm-hmm.
um, when we did it, it was because we naturally gravitated towards each other. We naturally did the same things. And
Right,
then when it was brought up to our attention that it did seem cliquish, we did start extending the invite, but people didn't take it or they were flake last minute. So I
right,
think this is where it's kind of like, look at it from also, are you doing an effort to also maybe create an event to where you can invite people? Because
right,
I think this is where it's kind of like going back to the overall umbrella, you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. So
right,
in this situation, you got to look at it. Okay, cool. Well, is it because they kind of are naturally friends, like outside of here? Or are they actually, the typical like cliquish people and they just don't want anybody in their circle? So this
right,
is where it's
right.
kind of like you have to look at it from where, what's the T on it, but then also maybe create a whole, team outing where it's like, hey guys, like I'm going to this bar to watch an away game. Who wants to join? And like even
Making
ask
it
specific
open.
people that normally wouldn't go, like, hey, like what are you doing this week? And like come out with us. So I think in that moment, maybe take matters into your own hands, create an event, and then like the people that normally wouldn't come out, maybe just like make them feel a little bit more like, I won't say appreciated. Como se dice, like
But just like like their
more
own
acknowledge them. Yeah,
invitation. Yeah, an acknowledgement and a way of
yeah.
saying like, and again, this is really because why go through all of this, right? Because you could just kind of have like, if your feelings get hurt, so be it. Be a grown up, be a big girl, like whatever. But
And
I
there's also that.
Yeah, but I do think making that, if that's really your intent to have it open to everybody, and somebody in the comments said that they would make things open to everybody, send the invite, and nobody would come. But again, it's almost like something that you said, Crystal, that I liked when we were chatting earlier was just that, kind of being willing to own your crap a little bit and be,
Mm-hmm.
understanding of like that it's give and take in terms of what you put out versus, how you're received and whatnot. And
Right.
so I think if you are feeling slighted or left out of events and somebody does try to make an invitation to extend it to everybody, showing up, and even in spaces where maybe that's not your crew of people, but just at least making that effort of like meeting people halfway. Because I mean, it's it's the social dynamics. You guys don't really know each other. You know, you have to play nice and act like everybody's all the same, and but you have to get to know each other in those types of settings where you can maybe get to know somebody that you didn't automatically gravitate towards. Because I always felt like if people got the chance to mingle with each other and learn about one another, they probably see that they have a lot more in common. And it's like, oh, dang, I didn't know this person was that cool. But you have to be around each other to actually have that opportunity to get to know them. Can
Yeah,
you see
it's
me okay?
definitely
You got fuzzy wuzzy, but
no. I'm okay. Are you okay? Am I?
I'm okay. I can, you're good? Okay, as long as you're good and you can
Yeah,
see.
you're good. You're good. We're all good over
So
here.
somebody give us a thumbs up if you can see us both. Okay, we're all good. Okay, go ahead. What were you about to say? Right, right. And to be okay with that, because you're not going to gel with it. Yeah, exactly. But you're right, you have your peoples, and I think people forget because this world, like, yeah, let me, please. Okay, are you there? Because I just tried to turn my Wi-Fi off to see if it was, we'll see what happens. 1 second. Crystal's video is fuzzy, can't hear her, somebody says. What about now? How are you doing? Okay.
Hear
Thank you,
me
everybody,
okay?
for the comments. You're back. Now I can hear you. You're just a little fuzzy. How about your yeah, something got hella weird. Do you want to drop in? I took myself off of Wi-Fi. That's the only way that I find that it works well. Okay, everybody, she dropped because the internet, Instagram, blah blah blah. Thank you guys so much for joining though, and um, and the thumbs down like we can't hear her. We'll wait for her to join back in. Um, but I do think she was making just some good points. Like you're not going to jive with everybody, gel with everybody. It might not be personal. Making an effort to extend invitations to other people. Um, and even if somebody else, like, have you guys been on a team where it's like somebody maybe who aren't like the social committee person, but like when they try to invite other people to something and then nobody shows up, or like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody's making an effort to have like a squad bonding type of event, I would just say try to make yourself available. Because I feel like that's like a slight dig if you're just like, I'm not trying to go because it's because of who that person either is or isn't. Okay, so she's coming back. Give me 1 second. Ooh, nice and clear. Can you hear me?
I was in the basement because I thought like, okay, let me get just, isolated and like less sound, but now I'm in my roommate's office, so hopefully she won't mind that I'm here.
Well, you sound great, and it's way better. So I was just giving the recap on that last point of just going to events, making yourself available,
Yeah.
and I even mentioned like if somebody else like imagine like maybe a rookie being like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be at such and such bar. Do you want to, come through?" And sometimes people don't actually like show up or go. You know what I mean? Like they don't put
Right.
that energy towards somebody else on the team making the invite. But just try and work together on that. I think when people try to make an effort to connect as a team, I think it's just good face for everybody to try to make an effort to be there and show up for that
Yeah.
person. I just
Yeah,
think
I definitely
not
agree with that.
everybody's going to be able to go. You're busy, you have lives. Um, but that can kind of break down the click dynamic. And I think that that's a healthy way of just trying to get to know each other and
I
spend
agree
time
with you.
together. The next little point that people were making, and I know when I was listening back to the episode, it made a lot of sense that a lot of the like mean girl vibes come up in the context of like veterans versus rookies. And maybe rookies not living up to expectations the vets have of their program or something, and then all this mean rudeness, short patience having like kind of like get it together, like mean girl vibes end up coming up. Do you agree with that? That it's has a lot to do with just that rookie vet dynamic, or is there how should vets behave towards rookies in a way that it would not be perceived as just mean girl behavior?
Right. I think that there's definitely a fine line between, and I had one of my friends had actually sent this in when I had did my questionnaire. There's a level of like there's assertive and aggressive. And I think we had some rookies. I mean, I'm sorry, not rookies. We had some vets that did explain. I think the key thing is to explain the why behind something. So,
Mm,
for instance, on First Ladies, we're a very traditional team. We had our own like set of traditions where you would let veterans go before rookies, and when she would correct the rookies on that, she said the reason why it's almost like you're paying like it's almost like you would let your grandmother go in the Thanksgiving like dinner line. You let your grandmother go and then you let your mother go. It's almost like a level of respect. It's
mm-hmm.
not that the veterans thought that they were above you, but it's just a level of respect that they are having. All right. Do you have something to say?
Giggles will chime in as soon as she hears.
Okay. She's ready, just ready. Um, so I think the biggest thing that I found was useful and helpful and was the boundary line between what was a mean girl and what was a veteran being helpful was
Mm,
explaining as to why something was being done versus, we're just doing it because we've been here longer. Um, I think over time, even then the initiation was changing where like again, the whole point of initiation was to like embarrass a rookie versus like no, like it's almost like a passageway into the
rite of
team.
passage. Mm,
But yeah, rite of passage. Um, I think when you come in as a rookie, they always say come in as a sponge and learn. But also, and we talked about this, know your worth, at the same time, know your place.
mm,
And stand
yes.
up to, and we've had, veterans that would come in and, deliver a certain message with like a set of attitude or like, a little bit of disrespect. And we've had some girls that stood up to it and some girls that would always like report back and say, oh my God, this person did this. But going into a situation like this, ask a veteran why this is being done. It's not disrespectful to ask a question as to why. But then also, if you feel like it's disrespectful, just stand up and like know your worth while also knowing your place as a rookie.
Yeah.
That
And I
makes
like one
sense.
thing that you said too, when we were talking earlier about kind of like if it's something that's like pointed around like your work ethic or
Right.
like knowing your stuff for practice, which I mean everybody can universally say that like that's just a thing. Being at this level, you do have to prepare and be ready for practice, and that vets probably will have very, very low patience and tolerance for people who don't seem to be taking the responsibility seriously or the understanding that they're letting their team down by not being prepared because you're wasting everybody's time and it's late and
Right.
all of those things. Um, but like you said, if the commentary or the treatment that you're getting is not focused on your work ethic as a rookie,
Right.
but attacking your character or just being mean spirited, um, then that's kind of like you said, another place to draw the line of like, it doesn't have to be disrespectful. I think a lot of the feedback and constructive criticism that you get as a rookie from vets especially can be very helpful to your development, to your
Right.
experience. Like hey, FYI, you don't want to do X, Y, and Z, or you're expected, it's not like written down anywhere, but you are expected to do these things so that you know. And I think
Mhm.
rookies need to have that humility, maybe is the right word too, to know when somebody is trying to be helpful and are trying to be instructive versus you learning the hard way. I mean, we all make these teams. You're already like at the top elite level, right? You guys all made it, and you are all on the same level, but at the same time, certain things have to kind of be checked at the door too.
Right.
Like, vets have to let go of this idea of like, you know how it is as a vet. You're like eyeing up your competition of who's trying to take my, not who's specifically, but the rookies are coming and they're taking spots. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of that
Yeah.
kind of dynamic. Rookies, I'm sure, are just trying to prove that they're good, they're bad enough. They're like got this technique and skill. But once you make the team, you kind of have to check that rookie, even though you've done X, Y, and Z in your past, you haven't been on this team before. So
Right.
kind of having that humility, and for vets as well, like it's not a competition anymore. They made it. We're all on the same page. Like all the sizing up that you may have done and whatever, just let it
Right.
go. Try to build and bond as a team.
Yeah,
I think that,
I think that's the hard part. I was actually having this conversation at Happy Hour earlier. Like the constant competition and comparing, even once you get to the finish line, at that point, don't look to your right, don't look to your left, or whatever direction I just did. But don't look either way, but look at yourself and like what you need to do to make sure that your spot is like right there when you come into auditions. Like, how are you training dance wise? How is your fitness level? How are you even like getting back to the team to be able to say, hey, listen, in my exit interview, I, yeah, I elevated in my dancing, I improved, my fitness is like A1, or it may have been a struggle, but also the contribution that I gave to this team was, X, Y, and Z. I think
mhm,
it's too much. It's too much comparing, and we all just need to look at like ourselves.
yeah,
That's your biggest competition, not anybody else. I actually had someone that said that they was talking about their experience on the team in my class, and I hate to say it, and I don't want to sound rude or anything like that. But again, coming from like a Latina background, like being Dominican and stuff like that, you just grew up with no excuses. Like whatever was what needed to be done, whatever the training was, you just did it,
yeah,
and you dealt with the emotions later on. You cried later, but right now you got work to do.
mm,
And throughout my years, every single year was just kind of like, okay, cool. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And I had other people that didn't make it back that just focused on everything else around them. And that's why I didn't make it back. Not
right,
because of, whatever internal like struggle you were having. You were too busy watching like everyone else around you, and you weren't
mhm,
focusing on what you need to do to work on to be able to make it back. And I think
right,
that's the biggest thing is like don't the competition, and even comparing even at auditions, it's like you are your competition. Nova agrees right there. She agrees with me. You are your competition, nobody else.
But some people wrote in as well in terms of even dealing with uh, Mean Girls is to like as a solution or as a way of coping to focus on yourself, like being the
Mm-hmm.
best version of yourself, knowing your stuff, like worrying about yourself because
Right.
that if that's really their intent is just to hate and be that kind of person, you can't change and influence that
Yeah,
anyways.
you
All
can't
you
control
really
it.
can
No.
do is focusing on yourself and being true to who you are. Because I know one thing we also talked about too was just like sometimes if you're in a mean girl environment, that kind of seeps into
That
your
consumes you.
personality as
Yeah, and you don't
well.
even know it. You don't even realize it.
Yeah, and that's like like to me that's just like an overall cultural or like leadership. I think sets that tone if that's kind of the vibe of the program.
Yeah.
It can be as you're combating like the little indirect passive aggressive nonsense, all the microaggressions that you can kind of start to emulate that same behavior either in defense of yourself or maybe you're not the target of it, but you're kind of like observing it and seeing it happen and like not saying anything or not standing up for that person. And so, you end up kind of like becoming a mean girl just by virtue of that to some extent by just
Yeah.
existing in a mean girl kind of culture. And that's
Yeah.
something I think is a fine line, but we'll
It's a
get
fine line, and I
into.
think sometimes you have to almost have somebody even check you to let you know, like, hey, by the way, you're also becoming a mean girl yourself.
Yeah.
And I will say when I did my live where I talked about my experience on in my early pro cheer journey, I actually had someone tell me to say, hey, by the way, you affected me in this way. I had no idea because in that moment I wasn't thinking about it. I was dealing with my own stuff. I was trying to survive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it does take someone to be able to tell you, it takes a strong person to be able to tell you, hey, by the way, you affected me. So like take accountability. And I think when I even posted my stuff, like I wanted to see how many people actually looked back in their past to be able to say, you know what? Yeah, I actually had a part in it and I didn't even realize it until I looked back later on or had somebody check me. But at the end of the day, leadership, whether it's a director or a captain, sets the tone because they are the person that is more of in control of a group to be able to say, hey, listen, all of this negativity, all of this cattiness, all of this gossipness, it stops now. So,
Like stops now. And that's, I mean, segue to one of the points that people brought up was just that what if your coach or what if your captain is a
yeah.
mean girl or like constantly just brings that negative practices or is kind of like one of the active participants in all of
Right.
that, right? Like you do, somebody said like leadership is, it sets the tone. And what happens when the leader of your team, whether it's the director or squad leaders or captains, whatever, are that mean girl behavior. And I do think that that's really tough. It's hard to know that that's like the dynamic of your dream is made. You know what I mean? Everybody's just
Right.
singing like, it's so amazing, it's so great. Nobody really tells problems except us over here. No, I'm just kidding. But like it's hard to know ahead of time like what you're getting into. And then these are people that you looked up to that you were like, oh my God, like she's so great, she's amazing, she's my squad leader. You're just so starry-eyed and bushy-tailed about it.
Mm-hmm.
Those people to be the ones that either perpetuate that girl culture or treat you like crap because of it, it becomes a whole different ballgame to deal with. So I wanted us to kind of just talk through how to handle that, because this is, who do you go to? You know what I mean? When it's that type of situation.
And I think it's so hard. It's so hard to say who do you go to because one avenue that one can take is that you speak up. You leave and you speak up, but that I won't say the word is not consequences. It does come with its own like no good deed goes undone type of vibe.
Yeah.
Where it may affect your other team, which again, if it does, maybe that's not the right team for you. But I think ultimately you kind of look at the dynamic as something after you've been there, and then you kind of go back and say, okay, cool, you know what? This isn't serving me. This isn't making me a better person. It's not making me a better performer. You can communicate it, with a captain or a leader, just like you would in the real world at a job, document it. If they have an HR, report it to HR as you would a regular job, and then kind of go about it. But if you don't speak up, if you don't do anything about it, how will anything ever get done? And I think when I spoke about my stuff, I honestly did it just to speak my truth because I've been quiet for so long about it. I never spoke about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, how can anything actually happen if we're all like behind the scenes in the DMs, like, girl, we're all trauma bonding. We should just start a fire, get some wine, and just like trauma bond. But that's not going to solve anything. And the best way to handle things is like, again, go into a situation first and foremost, like be strong and know that you're never going to be by yourself. You're going to have so much support, whether you know it or not.
Right.
And just document it as you would any other job. And once you do what you need to do with that information, then just, if it's not the right fit for you, then I'm sure there's going to be another team or another opportunity. Dance doesn't stop at pro cheer. Dance goes in studios, like whether you create your own or you teach or you're performing on a stage, it doesn't stop here. But you are the person that is able to be the one that's like, no, like we're not going to sit here and keep tearing other women down. I'm going to be the one that's going to like help with the cause. It's not easy, but
Sometimes it does come with a cost, and that's the unfortunate reality. Like, I think my mouth got me uninvited to the team after my rookie year for the way that I chose to kind of address situations. You guys probably all know me by now. I was thinking back, Chris, when we were talking, like, I don't talk about it that much, but I was on the Philadelphia Kicks, what was it, indoor arena soccer league. I'm probably screwing that up, but I walked away from a team before. I thought that, um, this was mid-season. Things were going great. It was one little incident that could have just been a nice little, if you want to tap me on the or wrist about it, fine. I wasn't like intentionally trying to like break rules, but it was just a situation that I thought could have been addressed respectfully and professionally. And she just was just, I've never been, my mama doesn't talk to me like that. It was like so like off-putting, like in front of everybody, the whole, I mean, she just wanted to be nasty. She was just, and I've never been disrespectful to this woman, was not a trouble starter, nothing. It came out of clear left field, but it was just kind of like, and but I addressed it in that moment, which I think is just so powerful for people. I know some people are like, I need to sit on it, think on it, cry about it, and then
Yeah, I'm a person. I need to simmer on it because the way I come off, it's like it's so strong. I'm a Taurus, so I'm like a bull. I need to
yeah,
really just like sleep on it and simmer to be able to like come correct.
right. I recommend that actually for people to like process it in the moment, depending on how like disrespected I feel. Like it might just be something that I have to like clamp down on. But I just had to say like, I've never been disrespectful towards you. I apologize for the situation, but I don't like the way that you're talking to me. Like, and she said, and she just clapped back and was like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. And
Say less.
I
Say
was
less.
just like, you know what? Then that's the best thing then. And I left practice. I was actually stranded at practice, but I left. And, I think that's an extreme case and hopefully nobody has to come to that decision point because to walk away from something that you really wanted to do, you worked your butt off to do, that is not the first step that you should take is just being like, well, I quit. Or if you don't try your best to like go through, like you said, the communication,
To
whether
work
you're
it out.
to work it out, whether you're documenting things. But I do think we have to like as grown-ups, you know what I mean, to try to a way to articulate boundaries and when you feel that somebody has either crossed the line of respect or just engaged in behavior that you don't like. You don't have to have a whole documentary about it. You can just say, I'm not really
Right.
feeling that. Like if you have something to say to me, it'd be better if we work together and you kind of communicate to me rather than like text it to everybody behind my back. Or it may seem confrontational, but I just think like we're all adults and this type of a lot of this mean girl stuff is so immature at the end of the day because people are just rather than having like a grown up conversation where you're just saying like this is where I was coming from and doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe you have your reasons. Would you like to talk about it? Like, at least make that effort before you're like, well, deuces, I
Yeah.
quit. But I do think so, taking those types of steps to defend, or not even defend yourself. I feel like it's like standing up for yourself and your own
Yeah.
self-respect. And that may come at a cost, but I completely agree with you. If that is the type of organization that you're a part of that won't treat you with respect, and that might be something that you just have to reevaluate as a whole. Like, is this worth your time? Everything that you're putting into it, expense wise, time, all of those things. If you're not being met with some level of mutual respect, then it's probably something to think about.
Hmm.
When
Which
it's, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. We do this all the time. You go ahead because then
Keep
I don't
going.
want you to lose it.
No, no, no. I'm getting old. I have to catch it while I can. But I think too, because people did write in a lot about like your director being a mean girl. I think um, I mean, there's layers to it and levels to it of escalation, I would say. Like, if you do have
Hold
an
on.
issue
Not specifically my director, but like overall a director
overall,
being a mean
oh
girl.
my gosh, yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people
I
wrote in,
had to
yeah,
correct. I was like, wait, no.
no,
My well, yeah.
yeah, no,
I just
these
want to
were
correct that.
just in response to the story,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like writing in about, hey, well, what if it's your director that's the issue or that is engaging in that behavior? So definitely not like speaking to your situation, but I think people sometimes forget because of the way that like cheer teams or dance teams are run that those people are employed by an organization that still has like any other job like
Yeah.
certain roles. And while I wouldn't recommend like skipping over your director's head, like you said, like if you're documenting your interactions, if you make a good faith attempt at trying to like ask for time to sit down with them and discuss concerns that you have about your working relationship, or what can I do? I mean, you can even frame it as like, what can I do to be better, whatever, and then also use that as a chance to like ask questions or question the way
Mm-hmm.
you feel that you're being treated. Um, I think taking that as an initial step is brave, and I would recommend it. But also, like, I mean, my mom just ingrained that in me. Like, everybody's got a box, basically, and just like not being afraid to escalate if something does not get, if you're unsuccessful at trying to deal with someone directly. And
Right.
it needs to be that serious. And especially if you happen to not be the only person that this is happening to, I think, again, you can quit and leave and not say anything, or you can at least try to affect change on your way out. Like, I quit, and then I had emailed the owner of the team, actually. So I was in law school at the time. I may have just been a law, I don't know. You guys know me by now, whatever. I wouldn't recommend this necessarily, but it worked for me. The owner of the team was a lawyer. I'm in law school. I wasn't planning to go to his particular law firm, but I emailed him because you could find out lawyers on the website, and I just said, I was a member of your team. This is I didn't say semi-pro in comparison to pro, but I was just like, we aren't paid very much. We devote our time and energy. I had the utmost respect for this organization and the leader. And basically, this is how I was treated and why I had to make the difficult decision to leave. I just think you have to keep in mind that there's other levels that you can reach within an organization. And it wasn't because of my incident, but somebody else had an issue with the director later on in that season. And I don't know how it bubbled up, but they eventually let her go. So I think even if you are one of the first few people to raise an issue, it can essentially kind of create a little track record, which I think a lot of these directors that kind of capitalize on that fear of people actually saying something about it, everything goes under the radar and nobody knows what's happening. So at least if you're documenting, hey, I had an issue with this person, and it ends up
Right.
being 5, 6, 10, 15 people with the same issue, it might affect change at some point. Maybe not while you're a part of the team, but definitely for people
But
coming out.
eventually, yeah. And I think at the end of the day, like anything is something because it may not happen now, it may not happen tomorrow, but like the change will come. Like I even look at um again just like I mean, let's look at women's history. Let's look at all the things women have done little by little for us to be able to have a voice and be treated as we are now. Still slightly unfairly, but that's a whole different conversation.
Right,
But it's
right.
like you have to start somewhere, you have to build it up to make a case for people to make notice.
Mm-hmm.
And I know fear is a thing. I mean, I'm even slightly fearful being on here and just talking, but you have to really think bigger picture. And even with like the live that I posted, I took it back and I was like, what do I want to do with this? What am I trying to like really like do here? I wanted to create a platform, just like you have created Approach Your podcast. I wanted to create a platform, a resource to be able to help women or men, people in the pro cheer world, to just kind of be able to go back and like be be motivated to be able to make a change and not be so scared or so fearful that they're going to be by yourself. You're not by yourself.
No,
I
you're
posted that live, and the amount of people that I had gotten just responding to me, like, listen, like, I got you. I went through the same experience. I got you. People that I don't even know. And I was just like, I hate that we're trauma bonding. Like, hey, how are you? My name is Christal. Like,
not.
um, but just you got to take that first step. You got to stand up for yourself. You got to sit there and just say, like, all right, cool. Like, you got to know who you are. At the end of the day, it all comes down to like you knowing who you are the moment you step foot on that audition stage and you perform your ass off, you interview and stuff like that, you're already creating a whole persona. But once you make it, who are you going to be? Are you still going to be that cheerleader persona that you created? Are you still going to be that girl that all your life you've gone through so much that you've built this independent, strong woman, man, and then now you're here? So it's
Being true to yourself, like you said, like
yeah.
you I think, like you said, that persona, it turns you into like Miss America, Mr. America pageant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't make waves, just head down, like, just, do your work. You don't really, um, but you're also in this new space where you're looking for some form of, not necessarily validation, but, you're part of a team, and you
Yeah.
want to feel included. You want to
You want to feel
feel
appreciated, yeah.
appreciated, acknowledged. And so I think you know, in terms of being true to yourself and honoring yourself, it's really just like paying attention to that voice inside of your head that's like triggered because you know you're not being treated right. And I think some of like these other examples, it's kind of like it's kind of hard to put your finger on it, but you know when you experience it, it just doesn't feel good. Like people wrote it about like you know, okay, let's just talk social media for 5 seconds because like as I was thinking about it and talking to somebody, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so a thing that we didn't get into in the prior episode of like, and I'm not saying this is something that's going to like rise to the level of you like marching to
Mm-hmm.
office. This is probably some stuff you would handle one on one with whoever the heck it is. But you know, when people like, um, you know, it's like indirect stuff. Like, say there's like a team photo of some, or like a, hey, meet so and so on the squad. And then, you know, you have people in the comments like hyping this person up, but then they don't give that same energy to like other people. It's kind of like that clicky kind of like bonding, not even bonding,
Yeah, I
kind of
see what
like
you mean. Yeah.
that subtle stuff or the subtle digs where like maybe they unfollow you or like, you know, or it's like fake hyping up, but they really don't mean it. And you know, just when it's, you know it, but you can't like describe it.
You
Like,
can't, you can't,
how,
you can't. Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. Like, what I think when I look at it, and I'm not trying to like belittle anybody's experience, that sucks, and you know it. Like, if they take a picture and they crop your behind out, or they don't tag you, or like you know that you were in a picture and they only posted what you know, all the little subtle stuff that pokes at you. I think back to what you were saying earlier too about like how you feel about yourself, like
Yeah.
you really do have to kind of know who you are, know that like this is not this world sucks you up, but this is not the only world that you exist in. Like you have your friends that love you and know all about you, and you know what I mean, that would never do something like that. So you know who your real friends are, I guess, and don't forget that, because I know it's easy for me to be like, psh, screw that or screw them, and don't let it bother you. It's easier said than done sometimes, but I just think you have to kind of have that sense of self-confidence about you where it's not, you're not going to like let that crush your spirit too much, because it's just not worth. Don't let that be like the thing that like ruins your experience on a team doing something like
Yeah.
this. Love
Yeah.
look, things like that that I know you can point your finger at, but like at the end of the day, how important is that when you look back on it 5 years from now?
It's not because this app can be deleted with it can be deleted at the touch of somebody's finger. I think social media is such a major part in today's age for
Yeah,
good reasons, but then also bad reasons. It releases this weird level of dopamine that when people get a high off of like the amount of likes and comments. Um, I built my social media brand from the moment I got on Redskins, and I wanted to do it only because I wanted certain brands and certain at the time, I think I was trying out for Sports Illustrated, and I needed them to notice me, and you needed a following. After a while, Makiba, I realized how insignificant social media is to, and honestly detrimental to one's like headspace.
headspace. Yeah,
And I think even in today's age, this whole like, oh well, this person liked this photo, this person commented on this photo. At the end of the day, and we're always going to come back to this thing, you can't take something personally that you can't control.
right.
So especially we're going to talk technically for a second. The algorithm especially is so weird on Instagram, so sometimes some people can't even see your photos because maybe you're not active, or they are active on other people's pages, and that's what keeps popping up. So honestly, maybe it's really Instagram that's kind of messing it up for everybody and creating the drama here. But then
Right.
also, you have to look at it as like, are you engaging on that person's social media? Are you engaging on on the cheerleader like fan page or the Instagram page on the TikTok? Again, what are you doing first? But then
Oh,
also, if you realize that people are hyping other people up and not you, do you really want that hype? If it's not genuine, do you really want that hype? Because if they're not doing it because they want you, they feel like you killing that photo shoot or you killing that dance or whatever the case is, then why would you even want that energy? And I guess again, it goes back to like, well, the likes, the comments, the hype. Again, you got to be able to know that like. you got to validate your own self, because if you let everybody else validate you, you are going to be eaten alive in this world, and it's not cool. But at the end of the day, what can you control? Constantly show people kindness, like their photo if it pops up, engage, and your algorithm will start having your stuff being popping up on their stuff. That's one. Or two, just keep it moving, man. It's not that serious.
No, it's not. And I think, again, it's kind of like going back to how you really feel about yourself, because everybody wants that like experience of like, oh, I made my dream team. These are now my sisters. We're
I
going to each other's
know.
wedding. We are like, they want that experience. That's what everybody sees probably when they're auditioning. They want to be a part of that. And there's a lot of beauty in that. And for the teams that really do have a genuine approach with their leadership around cultivating that, where they have, I think it was the Falcons that I learned about, that they have like their own like social committee
Hmm.
and they plan stuff for them to do as a team. So there's no such thing as like you not being invited or included. They do
Yeah,
things.
we had the same thing. We had different committees for everything. Like we had a motivational committee that actually made sure that we did bondings, that we did stuff within a team to be a team. I don't
Mm,
know how other teams do it, if they also have committees, but if your team doesn't, maybe honestly like pitch that and implement that to build the sisterhood within your team if it lacks.
hmm And these are just like, this is the Anti-Mean Girls Guide, just ideas of ways of offsetting some of these dynamics, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
maybe that is, instead of going to your coach or director and saying, nobody likes me or I feel like I'm being singled out or left out, you're offering like a solution of something that maybe can be incorporated into your program. Like, because like, Seahawks, for example, we didn't have like a big sister program or where you're assigned a little buddy or anything like that. We didn't have committees and things of that nature. So like if you're offering that as like, hey, there are some teams that do X, Y, and Z, it might help to make everybody feel included or have events,
Right.
whatever. There's other ways of kind of addressing the issue, where it's offering a solution at the end of the day and taking some best practices from teams that seem to have that gel. And you're not going to get along with everybody. You're not going to be, have
You're not
sleep
gonna be
over.
everyone's cup of tea. No.
No. And that's so, it's got to be okay because you love yourself enough to just exist and be, period. Whether it's everybody's feeling you or not, like you have to have that, like you said, just focusing on yourself first and holding your own self accountable to how you treat others, because you might be getting reciprocated like what you give out. And that's just something to think about that might be a factor into why you're treated or perceived the way that you are. And if you're
Hmm.
willing to kind of break down that point of communication with people, like I just think if you're coming from that humble space of wanting to be better and to treat everybody with kindness, um, there's room for some of this stuff to go away. Now, for the mean girls who are just mean girls, who know they're mean girls, who like pride themselves on being mean girls, and that's just the vibe that they bring, what do we have to say
Is
to them?
Listen, you let your success speak for yourself. Because once upon a time, when I had all that happen to me in my earlier pro cheer journey, and I didn't really know what to do with it, I didn't know how to clap. Uh, Hold on, I knew how to clap back. I was just too respectful to clap back, and I honestly thought that it was me. Like
Mm,
constantly, every single time, I was like almost like brainwashed to thinking like, oh my god, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? Would overanalyze situations, and it would be another, I would come in and again, toxic relationship, the boyfriend that always like treat you like shit. And then you're just like, oh my God, we're back together. We're working things out because he brought you flowers to say you're
right.
sorry or to say that, you're amazing. You're doing so well. But then another situation happens and then it gets worse and worse. For me, my point was where I went through a personal family issue where someone was dying and I got no empathy from my teammates. I didn't get any empathy from my director. In my earlier pro cheer journey, I didn't get anything. So I went through that hardship by myself. The constant like you have to be a certain like weight, and it wasn't really a healthy mindset, all of the things, it was just kind of like, this is crazy. I will never want to do this again ever in my life.
Yeah.
I took a year off and I sat there in my ear. I'm like, wow, the fact that I'm letting one person dictate my future in dance, is insane.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I went ahead and I worked my ass off to audition for a pro cheer team, and I made it. And every single year, it was the same mentality. It wasn't like woe is me or I'm letting anybody be able to come in my way of what I want. It was what do I need to do to work at it, and then anything that came between me and a teammate, I developed like I'll try to develop a relationship to where we would have conversation about it. Nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, we squashed it. But I know some people aren't always like that. They don't like confrontation. But you have to be able to have you need to be able to communicate, or else you're not going to be able to get anything done. That's really all it comes down to it. But most importantly, you got to have that mindset of like, hey, no one is going to come in between what you want in life or anything else.
Yeah.
So your success, that's all you need to be able to show that mean girl, like, what was you talking about? Oh, okay, because I did this and you
Yeah.
didn't. So here we are. But
That's it.
yeah.
I mean, I love when people are writing in just like you just outperform them out. Not even like it's about comparing yourself again to anybody else, but you are so focused on your own growth and development
Mm-hmm.
and being the true person that you are. What you know, if you're not confrontational or argumentative or like what's the word, catty in that way, you don't have to be that if it's not you. That's not the only way of solving a problem. But focusing on yourself, having your stuff together, that always speaks volumes, and it will all of that yippity yap will just like trickle, or maybe it'll intensify because they're really truly jealous. That's a thing. But at the end of the day, when you're so, don't let anybody. I'm so with you on that. Do
No.
not let anybody get in the way of you enjoying this experience. And I feel like for those types of people who just seem hell bent on being that way, like when they feed off of knowing that you're giving them that energy. When
Mm-hmm.
you stop like reacting to every little stupid thing that they do or seeming like you're hurt by it or whatever it might be, even if you're just like faking it till you make it and seem unbothered and then inside you're like crying and you're like the ugly alien cry, like not letting them see you sweat, and like eventually they peter out of energy, they find another target, they find, because it's not working, they're not penetrating through and hurting you, which is just unfortunate if some people think that way. But and it's amazing that those types of people make it onto these squads. I mean, people writing in are just people who are disrespectful of the coaches. They get away with it because I don't even know why they would get away with it. But like those people exist. You can't make them go away. You can't really control their behavior, but you can dictate what, like you said, interferes with your experience, what you internalize and what you kind of leave there, because it's most often an issue that they have versus you. But at least having the self-awareness to kind of consider whether there's something that you can take from whatever may have come out of this person's mouth, if it's something that might be constructive and to make you a better person or better performer, take it. Everything else, chuck it. Like it's not something that you need to internalize. I'm just making sure we're going over our notes because I don't want to, run out
We
of
don't
time.
want we don't
But
want to forget
I don't
anything.
want to forget anything. I think some of the things that other people had mentioned too was just kind of like the impact sometimes that alumni might have on squad dynamics. Like they might not even be on the team anymore, but just that kind
What? They still gotta sit. What? Y'all left. What? Why
of,
y'all
what?
still here? What?
But they might have like social events where they only, I mean, or like where they will kind of like take in certain rookie. It's just like this
Yeah,
cherry
yeah, yeah, yeah.
picking or throwing off the social dynamics just because they can. And like, again, people, it's just like, this is a world I feel like that people can manipulate in that kind of a way, because people feed into it and let it. You know what I mean? Like when you're not on the team and you're trying to be involved with auditions or like being invited to squad things and kind of like using that as an opportunity to kind of pinpoint who you like, don't like all that catty nonsense. Like I think they need to just get a life at that point. I mean, if you after you
Yeah,
retire, if that's the level of
yeah.
like
That's why I'm
involvement.
like, all of our alumni, they all got married, had babies, was traveling the world. What alumni is hanging around that y'all got that much of it? What?
Stop.
This
Yeah.
that is crazy. But I will say this: I know alumni, and again, even with first ladies, like our legacy was built on alumni. So much respect for them. And even when they would, my favorite time when they would come would be homecoming, and we would sit there and listen to their stories. So it's interesting to hear that alumni are coming in, and it has to be like freshly recent alumni that they're still trying to be involved.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that point, it's like, you gotta look at the situation, and if you can stay away from it, cool. Like, just do what you gotta do, be cordial, be respectful, but like, stay away from that, man. That's
crazy, right?
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's really crazy because, again, I think it becomes people's world so much that maybe they don't know how to appropriately let go or step away. And again, like if you built your whole sense of self-esteem up as a mean girl on, I make other people feel small so that I can feel great, and then you don't have those little puppets around you anymore because you've retired and you still need some of that energy in order to feel like you're still somebody. Again, right. I said it in the episode, I encourage everybody to go back and listen if you need some more food for thought on this whole topic, but like, it's being a mean girl, I think just the energy that you take, I'll just speak to the people who are mean girls that might be listening. The energy that you take to push somebody down who you perceive as weak or not as good as you, or whatever your motivation might be, like you're telling on yourself so bad in terms of like how insecure you have to be deep down underneath everything that you project, like you're this top shit person. Because I think real true top shit people who really know that about themselves have that confidence, have that air, and it's not questioned or second guessed because they're actually insecure about it. I feel like they just don't move that way. There's no reason or motivation to, like, they don't need to. So I feel like mean girls really are just like the loudest screaming insecure people that we have, not on earth, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they're really, like, if you really think about the psychology of it all, they're telling on themselves. Like, you wouldn't need to like attack somebody and pick them apart and constantly harp on somebody. That shows that you're more focused on them than you are yourself. Like that it's such a reflection of how you really truly feel about yourself. I would just encourage you to think about that and maybe like mask your shit a little bit more, because it's to me, it's like, that's not how somebody who really truly has that sense of self awareness of like the value that they bring, they wouldn't really feel the need, I feel like, because it's such an extracurricular activity, I guess, at the end of the day.
No, it's team too much. It's way team too much. I don't know how people have the energy. To that, though, I will say this. You got to also look at, because again, a mean girl, you clearly have a lot going on where it's like you're projecting. But then also, everyone has a story. There's two sides to every story. And you also don't even know what that person has going on. So, and this is going to be so hard for some people, and I get it. That's totally fine. It's not for everyone, but maybe be the bigger person and maybe, kind of flip the switch and just like be like, yo, girl, like, what's going on? Like, you okay? Because you coming off a little too strong. Like, you want to talk about it. Not in a condescending way, clearly, but maybe that person just needs someone to be able to just kind of lend their hand out for them to kind of break that mean girl barrier, because you don't know what they've gone through. I've had people, even with me, and I know I tend to have a strong personality where they don't understand it, and then I may even come off as a mean girl. But it's like people don't understand what I've gone through in my life, what I've gone through in pro cheer. I've had people call me, oh, you were a favorite. And I'm like, no, I wasn't a favorite. I worked my ass off. Like, and I got what I needed to do done. But because they speak so strongly on that, it's comes off as conceited, or as like, oh, like she's mean because like she's too assertive. And that's not the case. I think people just kind of like take yourself out of yourself, maybe put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and kind of just try to be an actual sister, be an actual cheer sister, and try to be there for that person. Now, if you put your hand out and then they end up biting it, all right, cool. You can at least say you tried. Yeah. You can at least say, I try to be there for you, or I try to be there for this person. Didn't work out. Keep it moving. But just kind of like, just know your place. But yeah, I think people have have issues doing that too.
I like that you said that, because now it's making me think too of like when people were writing in about situations. One of them that they mentioned too was like, where is it? Like captains and like, what was it? Oh, people not respecting the captain, right? Or just, And it made me think of like sometimes a lot of the pressure that is on people who are in leadership positions. Sometimes you're not raising your hand to be a captain. Sometimes that responsibility is placed upon you. And there could just be a lot of stress associated with fulfilling that role, having this hard, trying to be perfect all the time because you can't be slipping as a captain. Maybe you're short with people. Maybe you're just frustrated because you're held responsible for people who aren't doing what they need to do. There could be a lot. Or you just have life outside of this that's kicking your ass. That happens too. So I like what you're saying in terms of just, in addition to kind of like it reflecting something that they might be like projecting, maybe having that sense of compassion to say, hey, do you need help with anything, Captain? Like you seem stressed, or, or the one-on-one with the captain. This is a lot to extend if this is a person who's causing you a lot of grief as a mean girl, but at the end of the day, trying to find a way, like you said earlier, to have a conversation. Like, is there anything that I can be doing to make your life easier as a captain? Maybe that's a question that you could raise that starts the conversation. Um, you know, turn the other, I'm horrible with those things, turn the other cheek, other chin, something like that. You can just be the bigger person, like you said, and maybe there's room to kind of show some empathy for that person, because that's probably 9 times out of 10 what's at play. You know what I mean? Is
Yeah,
that
I agree with you. And yeah, it's definitely harder. And I think people like it's no, why would I do that? Why would I do that? And it's just like, no, just you got to be the bigger person. You got to set the example because I'm pretty sure you're saying the same thing. Well, the captain's going to set the example. You can set the example too. Don't be afraid to.
exactly? I like that. Well, I know we're getting close to time. People, if you have any questions that you want to throw in the box for us, please do. Um, I think we talked about just finding those ways of like showing, honoring yourself and establishing those boundaries of what you feel is like respectful or not.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about just kind of like situations.
No,
He's
no, but
trying to
clearly
say, like,
that's a
trying to
question.
wrap it up, y'all. But I just really appreciate this dialogue, Christal. I think people, again, these are situations that it's hard to put your finger on, or people are actually going through
Yeah.
it. And these are just some ideas to work through it, to have those difficult conversations, and also just having that relationship with yourself where you're not going to let that change, and also
Yeah.
professionally. And I'm done. I'm done. It's
She
like,
is
wrap it.
terrible. She's such a
Oh,
mess.
it's a
She
little
does this all
girl.
the
Oh
time.
my God,
She
that's
does this
hilarious.
all the time. Every single time. She's like, listen, I want to be a part of the conversation. Listen, everyone, this is my King Corso. She's a
Oh
hot
my God,
mess and has a lot to say.
beautiful. Oh,
No,
well,
this is great. And Makiba, like, listen, I'm gonna take a moment. I don't know when I'll ever have this opportunity. I'm gonna give you your flowers because what you're doing for the pro cheer industry, like,
God.
I call you the historian because you literally are documenting everything that's going on. We don't have that. Like at this point, we just need a Glassdoor page to be able to review all the teams, and then we're set. We're set. That's
We're
it.
done.
We're set.
Yeah.
We're done. We're done. We're set. We're set. But no, I appreciate you so much. You've done such an amazing job creating a safe place for us pro cheerleaders and just talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So like, I'll listen. If anybody can chime in, give Makiba her flowers because
Stop. Thank
like
you.
no, absolutely not. I'm gonna take this moment and do that because you're amazing and I love you so much.
And now I'm like sweating profusely. I really appreciate appreciate that. Seriously, Crystal, does mean a lot. I try. Um, I want everybody to have a wonderful experience. Like I really do. And it hurts to see DMs like the trauma bond. People struggling with situations that they don't necessarily handle. And I appreciate you just willing to be another voice. I feel like it's kind of like, especially as I get older, where like I'm offering my 2 cents, but then sometimes you just need other people to join in on the conversation to kind
You
of
do,
validate
yeah.
the strength and the power in the message that you're not alone, just as how you started this. So I just for joining me. Like I always like this is all stuff that needs to be discussed, needs to be talked about. There's a lot of comments,
I
but
know. We
um,
got our ray of sunshine. We got Miss Madonna Monroe giving the flowers. We have Kate.
mm-hmm.
So many amazing
That's
people.
what I do. But somebody mentioned too, just oh, if you have a hard season, do you use the director's name as a reference for other teams that you try out for? That's a great.
That's actually a really good one. We can touch on that because I think when
Yeah.
it comes down to trying out for other teams in the interview process, it's, um, I think honesty has always been the best policy. Thankfully, during my season, I didn't need to bring this up with my previous team. Um, but like I said, I think your work ethic speaks for you. And I think if you ever have time to interact with other directors, whether it's at a conference or anything like that, let them get to know you and who you are and let your work speak for itself. So when it comes down to it, if they need a reference, it's kind of like, all right, well, I know who you are as a person. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's that. But yes, that's actually a really, really good point to bring up because I know a lot of people are afraid to speak up or say anything because it'll affect them in other team auditions. My best advice is make sure you create relationships with other directors. Make sure they know who you are. Make sure that you are, performing your best, looking your best. So when the time comes, if it gets brought up, you're kind of able to say, it just wasn't a good experience, left amicably, and you can, just take it from there.
I agree. I think just professional, like you would any job too, is just, being selective about the way that you, like you would never kind of speak down on your prior employer. What you would just be flipping is like what the learning experience and what you gain from it, even if it was a difficult situation. Also, obviously saying things like it just wasn't the right fit, and saying what positive things you can and what you learned from the experience is probably the best way to go. I know obviously this assumes that you have the opportunity to talk, right? Like you made it to the interview stage, which is usually like towards the end. I'd say if you have professional or college experience, even if you did have a difficult season, it's part of your journey, it's part of your experience, and I wouldn't leave it off of the resume or but in terms of a reference, if it's somebody who was like mean girl and seemed to be targeting you and would definitely throw you under the bus, or like, and I know that directors talk, and so unfortunately this is just a reality, they do talk. If it's a choice in terms of references and putting somebody's name down, maybe I wouldn't put that person if they seem to be coming after me in that way. I mean, I think that's kind of the question, is if it's a reference. If there's somebody else that you could put, I would put that person. They might talk anyway off, reaching out to the director. But again, hopefully you made it to the point where you're able to, if you're asked about it, have a conversation about what you learned from the situation. I would say only don't put them down if it really was just a really pointed experience with someone being a mean girl to you. If it was just a rough season where you had bumps and the typical things that you'd experience on and being new on a team, I wouldn't let that stop you, because the professional experience, I think, does mean a lot in the auditions process. So you wouldn't want to like not include that. Thanks for that question, though. I think that was a really good question. Christal said it perfectly. Hi, Ray. I say it all the time. She's doing the Lord's work. Okay, you're catching me up.
You are. Listen, you are.
It's giving safe space. I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for creating this live. You are a light in this community. I'm very proud of you for sharing your experiences, Christal. Seriously, you guys, this was a wonderful night. I love that it was an off, not a Wednesday, but a Monday night. I know the Monday night football is going on, but I thank you so much for joining me, Christal. And you're welcome here anytime. If there's ever any other topic we need to just talk about, the door's wide open. And that goes for anybody else too. It's no longer episodes with interviews per se, but we always can go on live, talk ahead of time. If you have a story or experience that you don't feel comfortable coming forward about, but you want me to discuss, I mean, I kind of raising my hand in that way. There's a way to bring light to things without dragging people into it. And I'll do my best to give the conversation meaning and purpose, and hopefully doing something that will improve the situation for everybody. That's what I try to do. It might, to my own, be to my detriment sometimes, but I love this community. I want it to be a safe space, and I just thank everybody for participating in the story and joining us tonight. Until next time, thank you, Christal.
Thank you guys so much.
Yourself now.
Hi, Makiva. Thank you.
All right, you guys have a good night. Bye.